because there's so many venues of church growth that people don't realize it's there and opportunities that's there. And sometimes it takes someone learning it through the process. I'm so proud of my children. All of my children somewhat helped me in ministry, every one of them, to do something in ministry, and they all bless my soul. My daughter Courtney she's a COO of New Life, both in Birmingham and Montgomery. And when I give her an idea, she takes my idea and makes it something bigger than even what I expected. And so I'm so proud of her. She is a part of. I asked her to be a part of the team, the international team for the Church of God in Christ, and she is a manager of managers at Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm very proud of her. She's well spoken, and today she's going to talk about something that I think we all will enjoy, and she will explain what it is. This is my baby girl, Courtney Terrell. I couldn't say Terry, so I said Terrell Ellison McDaniel.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. If you want a copy of the presentation, you're more than welcome to scan the QR code to get that. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life, to Bishop and all of his staff, to Mother Jones and all of her staff, and as my daddy would say, everybody on protocol that I don't know to call. So just everybody on today. So today we're going to be talking about achieving excellence, the path to a 6-star ministry. So I'm sure everybody in here has heard about a 5-star ministry, right? 5 stars is pretty good. It's exceptional. Has anybody heard of 6 stars? Has anybody heard of a 6-star anything? It exists. Can y'all? So what today we're going to do is actually talk about how can we elevate our ministry. So first we need to figure out what is a 6-star ministry. So one, you have to have a clear vision. So we're going to talk about that today. You have to do it with excellence and with love. And we have to have an impact. We'll talk about service, exceptional leadership, and being effective and being able to sustain that. So one of the things I want to make sure everybody understands today is no matter what your role is, whether you are the bishop to the lay member, everybody has a part in ministry. And so we're going to talk about that today. Okay, there we go. So first, let's start with ministry. So understanding the vision. Vision, if you don't have a vision, then you can't execute anything else from a 6-star ministry perspective. So first, you have to define the vision. A lot of times, when we're talking about defining what a 6-star ministry looks like, it includes clarity and aligning with overarching goals. I like to always tell people to, at Blue Cross we can say KISS it, which means keep it simple, stupid. So when you're talking about vision, do it in a way, make it clear enough to where somebody can really quote it easily. For example, at New Life, our vision, if you don't remember anything else, is souls first. 2 words, very simple. So that as you are preparing your people in ministry, they can always keep that in the back of their mind, in the front of their mind, really, of what our overarching goal is. Then you can align your mission and values with the vision. And that is what really helps to strengthen the ministry's impact. You can do everything right, but if you're not impactful, it really makes it not be as effective. But most importantly, you have to communicate effectively. One of the things we have to do is be transparent. Growing up in the church, there were certain things that sometimes we weren't able to talk about. So then when I became of age, I'm going through things, not realizing that mother so-and-so may have gone through the same thing. Same thing when it comes to vision. You have to communicate the vision. You have to be able to explain it in a way that people buy into the vision. You have to have it to where they see themselves in the vision. If you have it to where they see themselves in the vision will work. Because then when they see themselves a part of it, that's when they're engaging and doing what their part of the vision is to be executed. I wonder why this keeps going backwards and not forwards. Okay. So after you clearly define your vision, you have to cultivate a culture of excellence and love. One of the things that we have, my high school alma mater, our saying was excellence in all things. And I will tell you that that was something that I really embraced and I really try to do in my everyday life, in my professional life, as well as in my church life. And in order to do that in a church, again, you have got to get people involved. So you can't just have one person doing everything. One, they're going to get burned out. And two, you're not going to be as effective. So you have to foster a team work environment. Being able to create different teams to work on different missions or different things as part of your vision so that it could be executed. One thing that you'll find when you start getting people together, they have a way of maybe seeing things from a different perspective, being able to collaborate more of different ideas, and then being able to take all those things and be able to come up with something even greater than one person alone. So being able to foster that teamwork is one of the things in creating a culture of excellence. The other thing is continuous improvement. You know, I always joke with my folks at work and say change is the constant. You have got to be willing to adapt to change, because if you don't, you'll stay stuck. When you think about not just in continuously improving, but also learning, within your team, it's key to maintain high levels of effectiveness and innovation. And that comes from all age groups. It's not just the young people, it's not just the older people. It's when you're bringing them together, because the older people can provide wisdom to the younger, and the younger can help bridge the gap for the older. And so that is what we're talking about when we're saying continuous improvement. If you put on a conference of whatever, let's say a women's conference, then get feedback from it so that you'll know what are some lessons that are things that we can do different the next time to make it be even more impactful. And then the other thing is recognizing achievements. And this is where you're really going to have to know your people, because everybody doesn't want public recognition, but some people do. But being able to recognize those achievements is essential for motivating team members and positively reinforcing them, so that the next time something comes up, they're ready. They're ready to work. They're ready to do what needs to be done. But most of all, in doing this, you have to do it with love. You can do all of this, but you may leave. But if you're leaving bodies in the background of how you're talking to people, you might be effective, but you may still not get the results that you need to be able to continue that. And so when you're doing it, making sure that you're speaking with love. If you have to correct people, being able to do that with love, and being able to show and demonstrate that love. I think that's one of the things that is really the key, because people feel that. from the time they walk in the parking lot, park in the parking lot, and to walking in the door. That is what, those are the first impressions that somebody has with your ministry. It's not the pastor, it's you. You are the key to the 6-star ministry. So Colossians 3 and 23 and 24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. And when you remember that and you live by that, then that will help you to create that culture of love and excellence, because you have to realize it's not about you. It's about what you're doing for God. And when you keep that perspective in mind, it helps you to be able to be more successful in ministry, because you move self out of the way. And so I always tell people to check your motives. You know, when you are looking at wanting to be part of a different ministry or wanting to be elevated, you really need to check and ask why. I will tell you, this is really outside of my comfort zone being up here today. I think I told Superintendent Ellison that earlier. But God will make room for the gifts for you. But you have to do it when it's His timing, not just because you want to be seen or be heard, have a microphone, because a lot of the work does not require a microphone. And so when you realize that, that is what helps to create and set the foundation for excellence. Exceptional leadership. Lead by example. It's not a do as I say, not as I do. If I ask you to pick up a piece of paper, I should be willing to pick up that piece of paper as well. I should not ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. That's what a good leader is. But also a good leader is knowing the people and knowing the people around them so that they can identify leadership qualities in people. A lot of times you may say, oh, that person has so much potential, but maybe they're not ready yet. But what can you do to help them get ready? You know, that's what a good leader will do. You'll provide training and mentorship to be able to help them and equip them for when it's time for them to excel in whatever area of ministry that they're destined to do. And that helps to empower them. You know, it's one thing to be able to provide leadership, but it's also a greater thing when you can empower them and they're executing the vision because they've already bought into the vision, so you don't have to worry about it. I think it's safe to say that my dad trusts me because he understands I know his heart, I know his vision, and I'm not going to operate outside of that. And that's what empowering means, because you'll be able to, that'll take stress off of you without having to micromanage every little detail. Engaging the community. Understanding community needs. Everybody's community and where your ministry is different. So, you know, there might be some people, maybe it's feeding the homeless or giving blankets to the homeless, where somebody else's ministry might be more youth related. You have got to understand what your community needs. If you're wanting to give, for example, turkeys at Christmas or Thanksgiving. Well, if you're giving turkeys to the homeless, they don't have any way to cook it. So you have to understand what are the needs for your particular community and be able to operate in that. I would suggest pulling the demographics of your area and being able to see what some of those needs are, being able to partner with some of the non-profit organizations within that area so that you can be a better community supporter for where your ministry is located. And then implement the outreach. So you can't just be talking about it. You got to be about it. You got to do it. You got to do something. But in doing something, you have got to be consistent. Starting and stopping creates impressions or perceptions that, oh, they're not going to do nothing. They'll do this for a couple of months, and then they'll be back maybe in 2 years. But if you're consistent with it, then you are actually truly being a part of that community and engaging in what your community's needs are. So one of the things that I tell people all the time is when you're doing your ministry, don't try to focus on 5 or 6 different things. Look at what your vision is and pick one thing of what would really support that ministry, that vision, and work on that first. Perfect that. And then as you continue to perfect that and it grows, then branch out. Because then you're putting all your efforts and resources to be able to maintain that consistency and that relationship with the people that are in need of your particular ministry. Implement best practices. So when we're talking about best practices, that means you got to be talking to other people too. Ministry is not in the 4 walls. We have great church, great services, but when it comes to true ministry, it's beyond that. And so being able to identify and implement best practices in operations is really crucial for efficiency, being effective, and really being able to monitor how to proceed and move forward. Utilizing technology. We are truly a technology era, in a technology era now. It's going to be very hard for you to be successful in ministry and not have technology a part of it. So being able to embrace that. I want to brag on my grandmother just a second. She's 93 and she looks great. But one of the things that I have always admired about her is that she has never let her age define what she's able to learn. She has always tried to make sure that she kept up with the times and also kept up with us. And so in order for her to keep up with us, she had to embrace technology. So I love it when I get a text message from my 93-year-old grandmother because it says, okay, I know that this wasn't in my day and age, but I'm embracing where I am. And so being able to do that and being a constant learner is something that's going to be very important. And then also monitoring the process and the performance. What went well? What could go better? Where are the gaps? You need to be able to ask yourself those questions, but also be able to be honest with yourself and what the answer is. Sometimes it feels good when everything is great and wonderful, but everything is not great and wonderful. There's always able to be some type of improvement on the next time around. And what is that? Being honest with yourself and your team will help you all become stronger. Overcoming challenges. First, you got to identify them. And a lot of times you could, I'm in a rural area. It's only 20 of us at our church. We don't have a lot of money to be able to do all those things. Okay, great. But what can you do? Focus on what you can do versus what you can't do. And I promise you'll come out better doing that. But when you identify those challenges, don't let them just be challenges. work out ways that you can overcome it. And this is not just from a ministry perspective, this is in real life too. And then you develop those strategies. And I always say, when in doubt, pray. Pray and go back to the vision. When you might sometimes you feel stuck, or maybe you don't really realize what you need to do, go back to from the beginning. Go back to the vision and say, what we doing, is it aligning to the vision? And learn from your setbacks. Setbacks, to me is one of those things that has to happen. Because if you don't have setbacks, you don't know how you to learn. How will you learn? How will you be better? So setbacks is not a bad thing. Just learn from them on how you can improve and do better the next time. Sustaining excellence and consistency is the key. And that is by cultivating that continuous improvement, regularly evaluating your processes, how you're doing things, and then being able to adapt to the change. Doing those things will help you sustain in that particular area. Now, let's transition in understanding what your role is in ministry. So, what does ministry even mean to you? I've thrown that word out. I've said that on every slide almost. But what does ministry even mean to you? Now, I can hear. It's interactive, I promise. Not all at once. Meeting others' needs. And I think one of the things when you're trying to understand your role in ministry is the passage of scripture in 1 Corinthians 12 through 27, where it's talking about the body of Christ. And that's where you really find out that everybody really has a role. Just like when you think about your own body, everybody has a function, every organ, every cell. And so everybody doesn't have to do the same thing. If we all did the same thing, we wouldn't be effective. And so that is why, like I look at my own family, my brothers, sister, we all have something that we bring to the ministry that's different. And that helps with that, with being able to help our ministry grow in Montgomery and in Birmingham. And realizing that every role matters. Whether you're the usher, whether you're the deacon, pastor, lay member, your role matters. And and making sure that you understand that. So one of the biggest things is being able to truly change your mindset to being a 6-star ministry member. And so we've already talked about, the differences between, 5-star is standard, excellent service. 6-star exceeds that. So some of the traits of a 6-star ministry is vision driven. Your excellence focused, love and action. You're engaged in your community. You're resilient and you're faithful. And you're multiplying influence. That's a big one right there. Because you have to learn how to duplicate yourself. Because you can't always do everything. So being able to learn how to duplicate yourself in ministry is also just as important. So finding your place in ministry. Where do you fit in? First, identify what your gifts and your skills and your passions are. And then, based off of that, match your strengths to what's offered in the ministry that you're in. So whether your role is formal or informal, you still have a ministry. A lot of times when you look about things that you go through every day, That could be a ministry. It doesn't have to have a title of being in a church. For example, my husband and I, we had a hard time having a baby. And that was very tough for us. God blessed us with a child. And because of that, I was very vocal about some of the things that happened during that time frame. I was able to start witnessing one-on-one with other mothers and other women who were having some of those same issues. That's a ministry. It's not part of New Life. It's not part of, so even when you're thinking about things that you're going through and some of the tests and trials that you've had, that's still part of ministry. So, with that being said, what questions do we have? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of going back to keeping it simple, you know. I find that works well in a lot of different things versus trying to overcomplicate it. And then it can also become intimidating. So, anyone else with questions? Mm-hmm. 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 It is. And if you can't do it, say for instance, you do it in January, don't just say, hey, every first January, every first Friday or whatever of the month. That's 12 times a year. Or every other month. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, 'cause I want everybody to hear this. First of all, I'd just like to thank you. I know that it's not always easy presenting new ideas, new concepts, using new technology to do so. So I'd like to applaud you for being able to do that and doing it in a very well organized way, but also being able to do that to those of us that are a little bit your senior. And I know it's not easy being able to communicate those kind of ideas and concepts to those of us that may have had the way we think ingrained in us for a very long time. So I just like to applaud you for being willing to do what you did today.
Thank you. That's fine.
You must see yourself in the vision, and that's good. And I was thinking at Disney World, and you have to be able as a leader, no matter how large or small the task is, you have to be able to do it. At Disney World, what I found out we went last summer, was that if the vice president is walking along and there's a piece of paper on the ground, you have to pick it up. You know, I said, how is this place so clean? I said, because every employee is responsible for the trash on the ground. It doesn't matter. So when the other employees see you know, here I am, the president, and I'm picking up. And because my mission is to make sure that Disney World is clean. And I don't know how many of you have been there, but it is spotless. And I mean, there are thousands of people there. But you have to first see yourself, understand what the vision is. And I like that part. You must see yourself in the vision. And if the vision, whatever the goal is, you can work in that. and there are no big eyes or little U's, because the main thing is for the vision, to make sure it comes to pass. You know, I like that statement. See yourself in the vision. Thank you, sir. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mother Meadows. Anyone else?
I get no respect around here. You're so beautiful, Courtney. You've done a wonderful job. I heard you state that finding our place in ministry, we could be directed by our passion and compassion. My question is, can ministry be birthed out of frustration?
Somebody else gonna answer that question? Honestly, I think it could. To be honest with you, I do think that ministry could be birthed out of frustration.
A lot of times, what happens is when we are anointed to do something, the first time people try to put it off on somebody else. But then the other person don't have the same compassion about what they are frustrated about. And we have to learn how to redirect that back to them as, hey, this could be you. It's not bothering me. Somebody a long time ago came to me and said, Pastor, the person is in the house today, Pastor, when people in the hospital, nobody's sending cards to the person in the hospital. I said, it don't bother me. It must be for you. And that was a way of identifying out of a frustration, a birthing of a ministry.
Like my dad said, ain't that nice? You know, when she was talking about two things, one of her jobs at the church is also not just to oversee, but to also make sure she's over the operations of we call it ministry affairs, to ensure that every ministry that is out there have what they need to be successful. And so she's the one to make sure they're operating in the way they should. If they don't have it, she makes sure they have that addition to it, which makes that good. The other thing I want to address, what she's talked about as well, is I call it finding your niche. You need to find out what your niche is, and sometimes people don't know what their niches are. When we first started the church, it was so many people that come to us, and they would ask money for rent, light bill, power bills, and so we were able to help 10 people that month. And I said, with all the people that's coming for help, we have to turn so many people down because we had a budget every month for outreach. And so what I prayed about was, what can I do that we can afford to do that would reach more people and even get more people involved? And that what we call was the Lord's Storehouse. And we were able, it escalated at one point. We were feeding 19,000 families twice a month. We had 3 locations that we did it in. We had a connection with the food bank. We organized it that way. You can't do that now because they've cut down on the food you can get. But the point is that we were able to take something and make it bigger and do more with it because we chose something that everybody could do and would be more effective as it's a church and we're doing real outreach, and everybody felt like they were a part of that.
Anyone else?
What the members think that they're good at. ask them, would that be a good suggestion to just put out a survey and let them fill it out privately? And you can see what they're good at, and maybe that will be a good fit.
For certain things. But when they join the church, we have a list of all auxiliaries that's there. And when they join the church, they can check which ones that they would like to serve in. And then somebody from the department will get back with them.
And one of the other things that we do is because, sometimes everybody doesn't check those boxes. As you get to know people just in, the weekly interactions, sometimes I just go up to people sometimes and be like, hey, would you like to serve on this team with me? And a lot of times they'll be like, oh, yes, I would love to. And then you find that they are very talented and things like that. So sometimes you have to go to them because they don't always want to volunteer or they don't feel comfortable with volunteering. So I think it's a good thing and for you to be able to have relationship building as well. Did you still have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I think sometimes we see somebody else in the vision and we try to imitate them. But we have to pray and ask God to help us see ourselves in the vision. And because of that, we do get frustrated. So we have to start over and ask God, what would you have me to do? Because like you said, your community may not be like my community. I may be trying to do something like you did, but that's not what God told me to do. And thank you for that, because you really have to search out the community and see what the need is. And that's why we do get frustrated in ministry, because I look at my pastor and his first wife, and I think about, they often tell Elder Harris and Mother Harris, they always tell where they came from and where they started from. But we don't want to do that. We want to take off 100 miles an hour. And we have to be patient and understand our vision. Okay.
Great presentation, as everyone has already said. So, quick question. In your presentation, you talked about duplicating the leader's influence. And sometimes as leaders, it's not always easy to do that because you may have done that in the past and been burned. Not trying to micromanage your vision and putting people in place to carry out the vision. So how do you that I guess would be overcoming one of the challenges. Can you talk a little bit about how you're duplicating the influence and how you're maintaining the influence in other people? Like, how do you?
She said, he said, in general. See. I think that's a great question, and I think a lot of that has to do with being confident, one, in who you are in ministry, and being able to, when you're praying about, I pray every day about, God, put the right people around me. One of the things I think Superintendent Ellison talked about yesterday was, you don't have to be the smartest or the person, but being able to surround yourself with people. I mean, think about Judas. I mean, he was one of the disciples, and he betrayed Jesus, but he was still there. And even in that, being able to duplicate, I think it's one of those things of trust. There's a level of trust that if you're going to have people in your circle where you're mentoring, to be able to duplicate some of those things, there's a circle of trust that also has to be made. Maybe even some rules of engagement or expectations. And being able to set those. One of the things I'm learning is how to even set boundaries. You know, and so I think, you want to help me out? Thank you. But I do think those are some of the things, or key things that's important when you're talking about duplicating yourself. Absolutely. So, like, I'll just use me and my dad for example. So he knows when he says, okay, Courtney, I need for you to do this. He knows, one, I already understand from what his perspective is going to be. Two, he trusts me to be able to execute it. And three, he knows if I'm going to go and keep him updated, so where he doesn't even have to come to me because I'm going to him. And because of that, he trusts me enough if I say, hey, I would like to involve so-and-so. He trusts me enough to know that I have the vision in mind of being able to work with that particular person about that particular component. And you have to be careful about when I'm saying duplicating, I'm not saying duplicating the entire ministry. It may be one facet. It may be duplicating how you excel in executing operational things, or how to expand your media ministry, or how to help with the youth ministry. So you also have to keep in mind that there's still some boundaries and, that you have to maintain even in your duplicating efforts. Does that make sense?
Because very key. I mean, she knows me. You keep hearing that, right? She knows me. She knows how I think because I have her around me, just so she knows what I will like and what I won't like. When my secretary, Reedy, when she first came to work for me, she was the one that had worked for colonels and generals. And so she was used to people doing what she said do. And so when I would say, Reedy, I need you to have, ask them, could they do that such thing for me? And Reedy said, Pastor, you need to go over there and do that right now. I said, hold up. That ain't what I meant. I said, this is a volunteer here. And so what I had to train her. I said, when I would tell her, I said, now what did I say? And she said, you said, I said, no, I didn't say it like that. And so I had to train people that were around me to actually talk to people like I'm talking to them. The other thing is this. The reason the Lord blessed me in this way with my children, and I could trust Courtney with so much and my children so much, is because God let my children be in the heart of the people. And because they don't abuse people. And they wouldn't talk to, so people feel comfortable. They feel like they're talking to me when they talk to my children. And so it makes a difference when your children don't try to push their influence in the ministry like they over somebody. And Daddy, I'm going to get your daddy said this. She doesn't do that. None of my children, they enjoy their success in ministry. They want them to be in front and leading. So I'm so proud of my daughter, Courtney.
Can you elaborate on, she said something about being burned from duplicating yourself or putting yourself out there. Can you elaborate on the danger of a leader withdrawing to themselves just because they've been burned?
Yeah, it is dangerous, but it's real. And you have to, it kind of goes back to a conversation me and my grandmother were having coming here today about forgiveness. And you have got to, as a leader, you already know that if everybody likes you, well, then something's wrong. Can I just be honest? That means somebody's not being honest with you, or you're not being honest with yourself. And so already being able to set some of those expectations up, yeah, you are probably going to be burned. But you know when you are burned, how to deal with it. And it's not withdrawing. Sometimes it's having a conversation with that particular person, or being able to say, okay, well, this happened this time. I'm going to learn from that, and maybe I'll do something different. But sometimes you really do, and I don't want to sound so over spiritual, but you do have to pray about it because you can't let that one person stop you from doing what you need to be able to do, because then you're going to not, you as a leader will no longer be effective.
One more thing, 'cause right there with that, when you put somebody up, you give them your influence, and they think that you're okay. So now you give them the influence, and so people are going to be looking to them like they look to you. And those people, when they abuse that influence, then you have to see how you're going to work it, because they feel like now they're in charge. One key item that I do with ministry is that I never leave it all to one person. We have 7 locations, so I have 7 usher officiators. I have 7 deacons that officiate. I have, everything we do is like 7 deep. So if I lose somebody, I'm not lost. I have somebody that's can step right in and take over, and then the person that's 7 deep, right? They can take, that's in charge. But then there's someone that they're training, so I'm like 14 deep. In other words, make sure that you train enough people that you're not so locked into one person that because some people, what they try to do, they want to grab it all so they can have more influence. Keep them in the place they should be in, easy in, hard out. And so you got to be careful who you put in position.
Is that my time? Thank you. Okay. Thank y'all so much.
Oh, she did a lovely job. That girl almost as smart as her uncle. Thank you so much. A beautiful job. Beautiful job. If we had had time, I would have asked a question. Is there a time an assignment that needs to be done interferes with the ministry that you've called to do? But since we don't have time, we just get that for the next time. All right, we're going to take a 15-minute break. All right, Superintendent Bishop want to see us up in his office immediately. All right. If we're not down by 12:45, somebody please start the service. We don't want to hold the speakers up. All right. Do I need to designate somebody?